and welcome to the next edition of the HP Discover podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interauber Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing sponsored discussion on IT innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. Once again, we're focusing on how companies are adapting to the new style of IT to improve IT performance and deliver better user experiences as well as better business results. Our next innovation user interview highlights how a consultant is helping big organizations better manage their big data and provide the insights that they need to thrive in the fast-paced digital e-commerce environment. So with that, please join me in welcoming our guest. We're here with Jimmy Mosen. He's the Principal Software Architect at Norgim LLC, a consultancy based in Princeton, New Jersey. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you, Dana. How are you?
I'm great. You know, we're here at the Big Data Conference. We've been hearing an awful lot about some extraordinary user situations where the fast-paced environment and data volumes that they're dealing with have left them with a need for a much better architecture. So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing in the marketplace. How desperate are people to find the right architecture now that big data is upon them?
Great question, and I think there's a lot of interest in trying to deal with large data volumes, specifically not only large data volumes, but also data that changes rapidly. So now there's many companies that have very large data sets, and then they are obviously in terabytes, some in petabytes, and then additionally they are getting live feeds. So the data is there, and it's changing rapidly. The traditional databases sometimes can't handle that problem, especially if you're using that database as a warehouse and you're reporting against it. So basically, we have kind of a moving target situation. And with Vertica, or what we have seen is the ability to solve that problem in at least some of the cases that I've come across. And I can talk about specific use cases in that regard.
Yeah, before we get into a specific use case, I'm interested particularly in some of these input-output issues. People are trying to decide how to move the data around. They're toying with cloud. They're trying to bring data from more types of traditional repositories. And as you say, they're facing new types of data problems with streaming and real-time feeds. So How do you see them beginning this process when they have to handle so many variables? Is this something that's a IT architecture, an enterprise architecture, a data architecture? Who's responsible for this, given it's now rather a holistic problem?
Great question. So we actually, in my present project, we ran into that. The problem is many companies don't even have a well-defined data architecture team. Some of them do. You will find a lot of companies with an enterprise architect role. You will have some companies with a haphazard definition of an architecture group. Net, at least at this point, unless companies are more structured, it becomes a management issue in the sense that someone at the leadership level needs to know who has what domain knowledge, and then form the appropriate team to basically skin this cat. So specifically speaking, I know of a recent situation where we had to build a team of 4 people, and only one was an architect. But we built a virtual team of 4 people who were able to assemble and collate all the repositories that span 15 years and 4 different technology flavors, and then basically come up with an approach that resulted in a single repository in Vertica. Right. So net, there is no easy answers yet because organizations are just not uniformly structured.
Well, I imagine they'll be adapting, just like we all are, to the new realities. In the meantime, tell me about a specific use case that demonstrates the intensity of scale, velocity, and how at least one architecture has been deployed to manage that. Let's hear it.
Sure. One of my present projects deals with one of the world's largest retailers, e-commerce, online selling, purchasing, and one of the things they do in addition to their transactions of buying and selling is email campaign management. And what that means is basically staying in touch with the customer on the basis of their purchases, their interests, their profiles. And even as an example, one of the things we do is see what a certain customer's buying preferences have been over the past 90 days. And knowing that and the customer's profile, we can try to predict what their buying patterns will be. So we send them a very tailored message in that regard, right? And in this project, we are dealing with about 150 to 160 million emails a day. So this is definitely big data. So here we have online information coming into our warehouse as to what's happening in the world of buying and selling. And then behind the scenes, while that information is being sent to the warehouse, we are trying to do these email campaigns, right? So this is where the problem becomes fairly complicated, and we tried traditional relational database management systems. They kind of worked, but we ran into a slew of speed and performance issues. And that's really where the big data world was really beneficial. And we were able to address that problem in about a 7-month project that we ran.
And this was using Vertica?
Yes. So we did an evaluation. We looked at a few databases, and the corporate choice is Vertica. The reason was primarily because while there's, at least in this scenario, I'm not saying this is the only one, in this scenario, we saw there's a whole bunch of big data vendors. The issue is many of the vendors don't have any large organizations behind them. Vertica does. So there was, the company management felt that, okay, so this is a new big database, but there's HP behind it. And the fact that they also use HP hardware helped a lot, right? And they chose Vertica, and the team I was managing basically did a proof of concept. And we were able to demonstrate that Vertica would be able to handle the reporting that is tied to the email campaign management. And we ran a 90-day proof of concept, and the results were so positive that there was an interest in going live, and then we went live in about another 90 days following a 90-day proof of concept.
Now, I understand that Vertica is quite versatile, and I've heard of a number of ways in which it's used technically, but this email campaign problem almost sounds like a transactional issue or a complex events processing issue or a transfer agent scaling issue. How does big data, Vertica, and analytics come to bear on this particular problem?
Very good question. So it is exactly what you say it is. As we are reporting and pushing out the campaigns, new information is coming in every half an hour, sometimes even more frequently. So basically there's live feeds that is updating the warehouse, right? And while the warehouse is being updated, we want to report against it in real time and keep our campaigns going. The key point is we can't really stop any of these processes. The customers who are managing the campaigns want to see information very frequently. We can't even predict when they would want their information. And at the same time, there's the transactional systems are sending us live feeds, right? The problem we ran into with the traditional RDBMS is the reporting basically did not function when the live feeds were underway. We could not run our backend email campaign reports when new data was coming in. And Vertica, it's one of the benefits they have due to its basic architecture, due to its columnar design, is better positioned to do that. And this is what we were able to demonstrate in the live POC. And nobody was going to take our word for it. What we were given, basically the end user said, take few of our largest clients. Take some of our clients that have a lot of transactions. Prove that the reports will work for those clients. And that is what we did in 30 days, and then we extended it, and then 90 days we would demonstrate the whole thing end to end, right? And then following that was the go live.
Now, you had to solve that problem of the live feeds, the rapidity of information, and rather going to a stop, batch, process, analyze, repeat, you've gained a solution to your problem. But at the same time, it seems like you're getting data into an environment where you can now analyze it and perhaps extract other forms of analysis in addition to solving your email e-commerce trajectory issues. It seems to me that you're now going to have the opportunity to add a new dimension of analysis to what's going on and perhaps refine these transactions even more deeply, more towards a customer inference benefit.
Great question. So one of the things internally that I like to say that Vertica is not just a big database. It's more than just a database. It's really a platform because you have distributed R, you are publishing other tools. And very honestly, when we adopted and went live with this technology, we first solved the feeds and speeds problem. But now we are very much positioned to use some of the capabilities that exist in Vertica. We are distributed R being one of them, inference analysis being another one, so that we can build intelligent reports. Till date, we have been building those outside the RDBMS. The RDBMS has no role in that, but with Vertica, since I call it more of a data platform, right? So we definitely will go there, but that would be our second phase. As the system starts to function and deliver on the key use cases, the next stage would be to build more sophisticated reports. We definitely have the requirements, and now we have the ability to deliver.
And perhaps you could add visualization capabilities to that. You could make a data pool available to more of the constituents within this organization so that they could innovate and do experiments and so forth. So that's very powerful stuff indeed. Anything else you can tell us for other organizations that might be facing similar issues around real-time feeds, the need to analyze and react? Now that you've been through this on this particular project, lessons learned for others. If you're facing transactional issues and you haven't thought about a big data platform as part of that solution, what do you offer to them in terms of maybe lighting a light bulb in their mind about looking for alternatives than traditional middleware?
Right. Well, I mean, to kind of rewind to almost a year ago, one of the things, like so many people try to do, we try to see, has anyone else done this? One of the issues in big data, at least today, is you can't find a whole slew of clients who have already gone live and who are in production. There's a lot of people in development, some are live, but exactly in our space, we couldn't find anyone who was live. So we kind of solved that issue via, a quick hit POC, the big lesson there was we scoped the POC right. We didn't want to do too much, we didn't want to do too little, right? So that was a good lesson learned. The other big thing is the data migration question. Even now, and maybe to some extent this problem will never be solved, it's not so easy to pull data out of legacy database systems. Very few of them will give you good tools to migrate away from them. They all want you to stay, right? So we kind of had to write our own tooling, and we scoured the market for it. We couldn't really find too many options out there. So a huge lesson learned was, if you really want to do this, if you want to move to big data, get a handle on understanding your data. Make sure you have the domain experts in-house. Make sure you have the tooling in place, however rudimentary it might be, to be able to pull the data out of your existing database. Once you have it in a file system, Vertica can take it in minutes. That's not the problem. The problem is getting it out, right? And we continue to grapple with that, and we have made product enhancement recommendations. But in fairness to Vertica, this is really not something that Vertica can do much about, because this is more in the legacy database space.
Right, legacy. Now, I've heard quite a few people say that given the velocity they're seeing people move to the cloud, that obviates part of that problem. If the data is already in the cloud, and if it's into standardized architecture that cloud is built around, if there's a platform as a service capability, then getting the data isn't so much of a problem. Or am I not reading that correctly?
No, you're reading that correctly. The problem we have is a lot of companies are still not in the cloud. There is still a lingering fear of the cloud. People will say to you, well, the cloud is not secure, right? If you have customer information, if you have personalized data, some many organizations don't want to put it in the cloud. Slowly, they're moving in that direction. If we were all there, I would completely agree with you. But since we still have so many on-premise deployments, we are still kind of in a hybrid mode. Some is on-prem, some is in the cloud.
Well, I just bring it up because it gives, I think, yet another reason to seriously consider cloud. It's a benefit that is actually quite powerful, that the data access and ability to do joins and bring data sets together because they are perhaps all in the same cloud.
Yep, I fundamentally agree with you. I fundamentally believe in the cloud, and that's really should be the way to go. The biggest reason is going through a very recent go live. There is no way we can have the same elasticity in an on-premise deployment that we can have in a cloud. I can pick up the phone and call a cloud provider, and I have another machine the next day. I can't do that if it's on-premise, right? But again, it's more so a simple question of moving all the assets into the cloud. At least in some organizations, that'll take several months, if not years.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been discussing how a specific enterprise in the e-commerce space has solved some unique problems using big data, in particular the HP Vertica platform, but how that sets the stage for a wider use of big data for transactional problems and live feed issues, and also why moving to cloud has also some potential benefits for speed, velocity, and dexterity when it comes to data across multiple data sources and implementations. So with that, a big thank you to our guest. We've been joined by Jimmy Mosen, Principal Software Architect at Norgem, LLC, a consultancy based in Princeton, New Jersey. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Dana. Have a great day.
And a big thank you to our audience as well for joining us for this special new style of IT discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interopera Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of HP-sponsored discussions. Thanks again for listening, and come back next time.